Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Sports Talk. Today I'm going to be previewing the ACC Atlantic Division. In my 7th spot I have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons with returning linebackers Brandon Chubb, Marquel Lee, and Hunter Williams. It's going to be a dominant linebacker unit there. They were 40th in the country in total defense last season. I expect a pretty good defense this season. They have sophomore quarterback John Wolford on the offense, who threw for 12 touchdowns and 14 interceptions last season. Obviously, you're going to want to reverse those numbers, get a lot more touchdowns this season. Sophomore running backs Desmond Wortham and Isaiah Robinson. I have their key games being at Syracuse versus Florida State, at North Carolina, and versus Duke. I expect them to go around 5-7 this season. And then moving on to my 6th spot, I have the Syracuse Orange with senior quarterback Terrell Hunt and sophomore A.J. Long. Both seem like they had pretty decent playing time a season ago. They have sophomore running back Irvin Phillips. They lost running backs Prince Tyson Gawley and Adonis Amian Moore. They lost wide receiver Jared West, which led the team in receptions and yards last season. I have them going around 6-6 this season, with their key games being at Virginia versus Pittsburgh, at Florida State, and at Louisville. Moving on to my 5th spot, I have North Carolina State with senior quarterback Jacoby Brissett. There's been a little bit of Heisman talk about him lately. Running back Matt Days and Dakwa Nichols. Wide receiver Berlon Cherry and cornerback Jack Tocho and Niles Clark. I have them going around 6-6 to 7-5 this season, with their key games being versus Louisville, at Virginia Tech, versus Clemson, and at Florida State. This team hasn't been bad in the last few seasons, but I think their schedule kind of puts them in the 5th spot. I don't think they're a top 3 team. If I moved them anywhere, I'd move them to 4, but because their schedule, I had to put Boston College in my 4th spot with linebacker Connor Wachuziak. They have a very talented defensive line. I expect a very good defense this season from them. On the offensive side, they have running back Miles Willis. They lost Tyler Murphy at quarterback, so they're obviously going to have a pretty good replacement for him. Key games versus Florida State, at Duke, at Clemson, at Louisville, and versus Notre Dame. They weren't too bad a season ago. I think they can win at least half of those games, but I do expect them to drop at least 2 of them. I have them going around 7-5 this season, so not a terrible season. My 3rd spot, it's going to surprise a lot of people, but I have the Florida State Seminoles after losing their star quarterback in Jameis Winston. Now that's going to have to be filled between Everett Golson or Sean McGuire. Jimbo Fisher still has not picked a starter yet. They still have running back Dalvin Cook. Expect a big season from him. They lost tight end Nick O'Leary and wide receiver Rashad Green. I think they're going to do well this year, but they're not going to be like when they had Jameis Winston. I think even last year, sure, they were unbeaten, but they were not nearly as dominant as Jameis Winston's freshman season. So I have them going between 8-4 and 9-3, with their key games being versus Miami, versus Louisville, at Georgia Tech, and at Florida. Now this team is going to be competing for the ACC title, or the ACC Atlantic. I don't think they're going to win it, but they are going to be in that talk all season, I do believe. In my number 2 spot, I have the Louisville Cardinals with junior quarterback Will Gardner, running back Brandon Radcliffe. They lost their star wide receiver Devontae Parker, so that's going to be huge position that needs filled. He was just a total talent, so that's a shame they had to lose him. But their defense, expect them to be very good this season. They have cornerback Shaq Wiggins, who's going to be kind of leading them. Their key games versus Auburn in Week 1, it's going to be interesting to watch. Versus Clemson, at Florida State, and at Pittsburgh. All very talented teams. I think Week 1 is really going to define the season versus Auburn. If they can win that game, I think they go around 10-2. Otherwise, I'd have them about 9-3. So either way, pretty good season for them. And they're going to be right up there with the best of them in the ACC this season. Number 1, I have the Clemson Tigers. Quarterback Deshaun Watson. Expect a huge season from him. Injury ended his season last season, so expect a huge year from him. Running back Wayne Gallman, wide receivers Mike Williams and Artavis Scott. They lost their talented defensive end Vic Beasley, and he's going to be replaced by Shaq Lawson. Again, big shoes to fill there. Vic Beasley was just excellent, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Shaq Lawson is going to be able to fill that spot. Their key games at Louisville versus Notre Dame versus Florida State and at South Carolina. All very winnable games. I mean, Clemson's going to be a great team this year. I think they're going to win the ACC. I definitely think they're going to win the ACC Atlantic and have them going between 10-2 and 11-1. So if they can avoid any major injuries, I think this team wins the ACC Atlantic pretty easily. And so I think the ACC is going to be pretty talented. I don't know if they're going to be like in a serious playoff talk. I think if any of these teams make it in the Atlantic, it's going to be Clemson. I've already heard a little bit of talk coming that they're kind of in that conversation. I don't think Florida State's going to make it back, but that's just for the Atlantic. There might be someone in the coastal side, but I think if there's anybody that makes the playoff in the ACC, it will be Clemson. I think Clemson's going to be the best team in the ACC this season. So those are my picks for the ACC Atlantic. I will get the ACC Coastal picks out very soon. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video. This is Sports Talk, heading out.